Accelerated learning binaural beats. Listen to these California Green Building Standards Code guidelines to review for the California Supplemental exam. Ensure you consult the most up-to-date version of the California Building Standards Code, Title 24, Part 11, CalGreen, Appendix A5, Section 5.2 to 5.6, Non-Residential Voluntary Measures. Play the audio before you sleep or when you wake up in a relaxed state. Repeat the code guideline and use your imagination to apply it to what you already know. Let this learning tool guide you, knowing you will succeed. Let's begin. A5.2 is all about energy efficiency, and its intent is to encourage local jurisdictions to achieve exemplary performance in building energy efficiency. Local AHJs or authorities having jurisdiction must submit their applications to the California Energy Commission for adoption into their ordinance. For all non-residential, high-rise residential, and motel, hotel, both new construction and additions, Tier 1 compliance says one measure must be implemented. Tier 2 compliance says 2 measures must be implemented. The lighting measures are as follows. A newly installed outdoor lighting power to be no greater than 90% of the outdoor lighting power per Title 24 by the California Energy Commission, with a color temperature no higher than 3000 Kelvin. The next measure that is an option is surface water heating in restaurants. New restaurants greater than 8,000 square feet and with surface water heaters at 75,000 BTUs an hour or greater must install a solar water heating system with a minimum solar savings fraction of 0.15. The next option, Daylight Design Power Adjustment Factors, or PAFs, per the California Energy Code. And the next option, Exhaust Air Heat Recovery based on ASHRAE 90.1. The intent of the next measure is to encourage installation and use of on-site renewable energy generation that offsets building energy use. On-site energy sources include solar, wind, geothermal, low-impact hydro, biomass, and biogas for 1% of electric power. Use the California Energy Commission calculation method. The intent of the next measure is to encourage purchase of electricity from a utility that offers a renewable energy portfolio of at least 50% electrical power from renewable sources. The next measure is to encourage the features of elevators and escalators that conserve energy by using regenerative drive systems that feed electrical power back into the building grid. The intent of the next provision is to reduce thermal bridging of materials that are in contact with steel framing. Techniques to reduce thermal bridging include exterior rigid insulation, punching large holes in the stud web, spacing studs as far as possible, and detailed design of intersections of floors, walls, and roof. A5.3 is all about efficiency and conservation. The intent of the next measure is to reduce indoor potable water use beyond the mandatory flow rates. It also addresses energy demands of treating potable water. For Tier 1, a building must reduce overall use of potable water by 12%. The measure provides a table with flow rates per fixture to achieve the reduction. For Tier 2, the building must reduce the overall use of potable water by 20% of the overall potable water use. Tier 2 also has a 25% reduction of overall potable water use. The goal for reduction of indoor potable water use suggests systems such as captured rainwater, treated gray water, and recycled water for use in water closets, urinals, and other allowed uses. Appliances and fixtures for commercial application must meet the following: a clothes washer, a maximum water factor to reduce water use by 10% below the California Energy Commission water factor standard. For a dishwasher, you must use an Energy Star standard dishwasher. Ice makers to be air-cooled. Food steamers to be connectionless and boilerless. Use of water softeners discharging to the community sewer system must be limited. Combination ovens, restricted water use requirements. Finally, food waste systems to reduce water use. Non-water urinals with drain cleansing action must be provided in accordance with the California Plumbing Code. Dual plumbing for new buildings and facilities, dual plumbed for potable and recyclable water systems can be used. The next measure intends to reduce outdoor water use beyond the mandatory requirements. Separate submeters and meters for landscape areas in 500 square feet but not more than 1,000 square feet must be considered. On previously developed sites, restore or protect at least 50% of the site area with non-invasive vegetation. Install gray water collection systems for on-site subsurface irrigation from gray water, tub, shower, laundry, bath, wash basins. The next section, 5.4, Material Conservation and Resource Efficiency. The intent is for material conservation, resource efficiency, and greenhouse gas emission reduction. The first measure intends to decrease the quantity of wood used to achieve structural framing per the standards. Measures include employing advanced wood framing techniques called Optimum Value Engineering, or OVE. Framing specifications include building design using 2-foot modules, spacing wall studs up to 24 inches on center, spacing floor and roof framing up to 24 inches on center, using 2-stud corner framing and drywall clips, eliminating soldier header in non-load-bearing walls, use inline framing, aligning members for direct load transfer, and using single lumber headers and top plates where appropriate. The intent of the next measure is to conserve energy with transportation of building materials over long distances to a job site. Select building materials that are manufactured and harvested in California or within 500 miles of the project site. Regional materials must make up at least 10%. Select bio-based products made from solid wood, engineered wood, bamboo, wool, cotton, cork, straw, and natural fibers. Provide wood products for at least 50% of projects' permanent installed products, certified with principles of sustainable forest management. Comply with one of the certifications mentioned below. Number 1, Sustainable Forestry Initiative, SFI. Number 2, Forest Stewardship Council, FSC. Number 3, Program for Endorsement of Forest Certification, PEFC. Number 4, American Forest Foundation American Tree Farm System, ATFS. Number 5, Canadian Standards Association Sustainable Forest Management System Standards, or CSA. The next measure for recycling concrete to comply with recycled aggregates must be made of any of the following. Number 1, blast furnace slag lightweight concrete. Number 2, recycled concrete aggregate, RCA, or crushed concrete aggregate, CCA. The intent of the next measure is to reduce construction waste. Enhanced Construction Waste Tier 1 says recycle 65% of non-hazardous construction. Verification of diversion rates to be provided. Enhanced Construction Waste Tier 2 says recycle 80% of non-hazardous construction. Verification of diversion rates to be provided. The intent of the next guideline is to create buildings with a longer life cycle, For new construction, additions and alterations of 50,000 square feet or greater, Tier 1 says, demonstrate a 15% reduction in global warming potential, while Tier 2 says demonstrate a 20% reduction in global warming potential. If complying using a prescriptive path, products listed in this section shall have a Type 3 Environmental Product Declaration. A5.5 Environmental Quality promotes practices that maintain healthy air quality during the construction process to protect workers' health and leave the building prepared for occupancy. Measures include ventilation during construction with 3 air changes an hour provided. Stringent requirements must be followed for generators. Protect on-site absorbent materials from moisture. Store high VOC materials off-site. Air them out before bringing them into the building. And clean oil and dust from ducts. For indoor air quality post-construction, measures include flush out the building with a continuous air supply at maximum rate for 14 days minimum. Maintain an internal temperature of 60 degrees Fahrenheit and 60% humidity. If building flush out is impossible, use testing protocols by the U.S. EPA. Contaminants to test for include carbon monoxide, formaldehyde, particulates, 4-phenylcyclohexene from fabrics and carpets, and VOCs. The intent of the next measure is to encourage use of no added formaldehyde, or NAF, based resins, or ultra-low emitting formaldehyde, ULEF resins, for Tier 1. The California Air Resources Board, or CARB, adopted regulations for ULEF wood products. Emission limits are in this section. The next measure reduces the VOC of finished materials to help improve indoor air quality. Tier 1 says 90% of resilient flooring area to meet the requirements of the California Department of Public Health. Tier 2 says 100% of resilient flooring area to meet the requirements of the California Department of Health. Thermal insulation for Tier 1 requires no added formaldehyde, or NAF. To reduce the amount of pollutants brought into a building via points of entry, design a 6-foot-long entryway via installed grates, grills, slotted systems that capture dirt and water from shoes. For rooms producing hazardous fumes, don't recirculate the air. Provide self-closing doors, provide deck-to-deck partitions or a hard ceiling, and vented range hoods for cooking appliances. To provide lighting levels and thermal control for higher productivity in workspaces, provide individual task lighting and daylighting controls for 90% of building occupants. Provide individual thermal control for at least 50% of the building. Operable windows within 20 feet can be substituted if they meet requirements of the California Energy Code. Provide daylit spaces via 1. Light shelves and reflective room surfaces to maximize daylight in rooms. 2. Eliminate glare and direct sunlight in skylights. 3. Provide photosensors to turn off electric lighting when daylight is sufficient. And 4. Don't use diffuse daylighting where views are desired. To achieve direct line of sight to the outdoor environment, provide vision glazing 2 foot 6 inches and 7 foot 6 inches above finished floor in 90% of regularly occupied spaces. The entire interior office area may be used if 75% of each area has a direct line of sight. Include the square footage of areas with direct line of sight for multi-occupant spaces. For acoustical comfort under DSA projects for public schools and community colleges, maximum background noise levels should be less than 45 decibels for unoccupied furnished classrooms, and a maximum reverberation time of 0.6 seconds for classrooms less than 10,000 cubic feet, or 0.7 reverberation between 10,000 and 20,000 cubic feet. To reduce refrigerants that deplete ozone and contribute to greenhouse gas emissions, install HVAC and refrigeration equipment that does not contain hydrochlorofluorocarbons, or HCFCs, or that do not contain hydrofluorocarbons, HFCs, with a global warming potential greater than 150 for refrigerators, HVACs, and fire suppression systems. Global warming potential should be less than 150. And finally, Division A5.6 voluntary tiers is a summary of Tier 1 and 2 for cities, counties, and their jurisdictions to adopt as more stringent standards. Because tiers contain energy efficiency standards that are more rigorous than the California Energy Commission, one must get approval from the California Energy Commission prior to filing a new ordinance adopted per CalGreen. It also provides 3 checklists to verify compliance with mandatory and voluntary non-residential measures. This concludes Appendix A5 Voluntary Non-Residential Measures Review for CalGreen.